While gamers are rejoicing over Kotaku Australia's closure after years of really bad journalism and hit pieces on gamers, there are those within the industry that are melting down because they see the writing on the wall and that they probably don't have a future within this industry. And now Kotaku's senior editor Alyssa Mercante has completely lashed out over this shutdown. I have a few different things to show off, but before I get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, join the community in my live streams, and consider supporting through Patreon or YouTube memberships. Now, I did a previous video on Kotaku Australia's shutdown. It will be linked down below, but there are tons of gamers that are now rejoicing. Of course, I do not want people to lose their jobs, but at the same time, when you are bad at what you are doing and you are not making a company money, you deserve to be let go. That's just what happens. That's the way the world works. If you're not making a company money, they're not going to continue to pay you, and they're not going to keep you around. But now Kotaku's senior editor is freaking out over this. It says, as reported by the Sydney Morning Herald, Pedestrian Group is slashing at least 40 jobs and ending its licensing deals to publish third-party brands including Vice, Refinery 29, Gizmodo, Lifehacker, and Kotaku in the coming months. Now, when it comes to kind of this business relationship, back in 2018, Kotaku Australia was sold to Pedestrian Group from GeoMedia, but they did have a working relationship. Look at Claire Jackson, for example. She publishes on both Kotaku Australia and the Kotaku United States site. So they did still have a lot going on in the inner workings, but they call it just a licensing deal. Though, of course, because this was reported, we saw a lot of people within the industry saying how sad they are to see such good people losing their jobs. And then you had the individuals who worked at Kotaku Australia saying, this came as a shock. We're so surprised. And we hope that we can find work in the future to continue to better the industry, even though a lot of people would disagree and say they're not bettering the industry, they're just harming it. But now we have Alyssa Mercante making statements about this, saying, sending solidarity and love to the amazing writers at Kotaku Australia and all the other sites affected. You are all stars and deserved better. Capitalism is cruel. Your work remains always. The internet and the rats infesting it are even crueler, but a reminder, cheering for good people losing their jobs while men get rich off their labor is morally bankrupt. And by the way, I hate that I even have to say this, but let's stop the reactionary ride before it gains speed. We are not affiliated with Kotaku Australia. We don't share anything except a love for games and good reporting, which isn't the truth because, again, Claire Jackson writes for both, but we're also now finding out regarding the archives that Kotaku Australia closing may nuke much of the main website. Luke Plunkett had said if there's anyone who used to work at Kotaku AU who I haven't reached out to today but would like to say a word or two about the site, please DM me. Extra super effed up thing about Kotaku closing is that it threatens the archives for the main site too. Most pre-2009-ish Kotaku blogs were lost years ago and only preserved on this website. Not for long, I guess, which is hilarious to see. But she also decided to make more statements about the industry and the people within it. She said, you have no idea what journalism is. Your websites look like they're from 2001. They're riddled with typos. You use yourselves as a source for stories. You have an internet connection and a webcam and you think you have something worthy to say. You don't. We could set up my Nana with a razor in her care home and she'd make more coherent shit. It's a shame that private equity and Google have gutted legacy media sites and the stupidest, cruelest people in the world are rushing to fill in the gaps. Now, of course, it's rules for thee, but not for me here. She's allowed to, call us all sorts of names and belittle us and criticize us. But when it comes to us criticizing her, she instantly says it's harassment and it's hatred and it's sexism, which of course is ridiculous. People are allowed to criticize each other. She's a public figure, just like we are public figures. And she just could not accept the fact that, yes, there are people out there who have an opinion and they want to be heard. Just because you write for a Kotaku, a Polygon, a gamer, a outlet like one of those does not mean your opinion is any more valid than someone else. And she constantly attacks content creators like myself for, putting out what she calls is low effort content because we're simply reacting to other people's creations. But that's exactly what being a games journalist is. You are simply writing about games, someone else's creation. So it's just hypocrisy that's completely off the charts. And even here, you can tell that she is completely coping and trying her best to, attack the very people who she realizes is very quickly making her and her job obsolete. Now, this is so hilarious because people like her wanted to be legacy media. They wanted to be well-known activists, but she can see the writing on the wall. New media is reigning supreme. So many people go to other platforms like YouTube, X, and Rumble instead of outlets for political takes, guides, opinions. And with the CNNs and Foxes, it doesn't matter if they're left or right, people go to other platforms to consume content. And it's ironic when she says the morality of celebrating rich people when the whole idea of working for legacy media is working for the very people she's saying we're celebrating. They own the legacy media outlets, and people like her clearly thought they were special or what she had to say was more important than anyone else with knowledge on the same topics, and clearly that's not the case. She can try and spin the narrative that her job is safe and they weren't exactly us, but you were tangential sites. Your job is not safe. Even though it wasn't owned by Geo Media anymore, they still had a working relationship, and to pretend one shutting down doesn't affect the other is ridiculous and a coping mechanism. Yeah, maybe it doesn't affect her job right now, but it shows what the coming tide is. I mean, we have seen so many individuals like her freaking out over the past few months about YouTubers and other journalists at sites like Bounding Into Comics and That Park Place. We've seen even Nick Calandra going after other content creators, saying what we need to do is we need to go after their funding sources. If they want a deplatforming war, they're the ones perpetuating it. I never once attempted to contact anyone Alyssa works for or any journalist works for. I've in fact said, hey, just try not to attack people and write guides, but people like her take everything so personally. And of course, she's melting down over the fact that, viewers like you go to sites like mine and not going to, her Twitter/X account, not going to see what articles she's put up for the day. And she cannot accept the fact that content creators on platforms like YouTube, independent creators, are getting more views and interaction. And ultimately, you as the viewer hold more respect for YouTube content creators than journos who work at sites like Kotaku, The Gamer, and Polygon. And it's pretty funny to see these meltdowns. Again, I am not reveling in the fact that people are losing their jobs. I don't want that to happen. I just simply want them to do their jobs, to do better, not to attack the viewers that and the readers that they have, not attacking gamers in totality and saying we're ists and phobes for criticizing games. But that is exactly what her ilk do. And it's so sad and honestly pathetic to see. So it will be interesting to see who else lashes out, what else they have to say over the next few days, and if anyone else ends up getting laid off at any sites that are similar. Only time will tell, but for now, that's all that I had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, give it a like, and if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.